see what you do. I hope all of us are inspired a little bit to do a small portion of that. And just, I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but it's very generous of you for you to open your home. I have a feeling this is not going to be the first, or this is maybe the first but not the last event that you're going to host here, and may it always be a home for lots of wonderful special occasions, and hopefully more events here soon. So thank you for opening your home. Leah and I wanted to share a few recollections about a trip that we just took to Israel, which the highlight of which was the trip to the Shaare Zedek Medical Center in Jerusalem. And many of us support different Jewish organizations with our time or our money. But whether it's Jewish or non-Jewish, we don't always see the organization in action. We don't really see the impact that it has firsthand up close. And so when we had the opportunity to go to Israel, we were very fortunate to see what the Shaare Zedek, the doctors and the staff, the nurses do on a daily basis. As an anecdote, before we went, we were a little nervous. Leah was about 5.5 months pregnant. We asked our doctor. He said, you should definitely go. I'll even give you the card of the best OBGYN in Israel. He handed us the card, of course, as a doctor from Shaare Zedek. So we knew we were clear when we got that news. So I think we're going to get some video, some slides in a second.
This is not the hospital.
So the first thing that will strike you is the central location. It's right in the old city, and there are other hospitals in Jerusalem, but Shaare Zedek is in the city center, and only one that is, and that makes it really special. Can we actually? Can you slow it down?
Stop.
Can't slow. You have to stop each.
So just you want?
Yes, this is one of the highlights of our trips. Actually, it was the construction of the underground hospital, which can also serve as a bomb shelter in case of an emergency. And what struck us was how immense it was. It was huge, and the underground hospital must be able to support the entire population of the hospital. So it had to be big. It had to be just as big as the hospital, but underground. So you could just imagine how big it was and what we were walking into. And I think on the next picture, you'll see my stepdad stepping on a stepping stool and just checking to see if things are up to code, and things checked out.
So we received a tour by the head security manager at the hospital, and we spent some time really walking through this underground hospital that really is one of a kind in the world. It is immense, it is fortified, and it's in the process of being constructed. And there's that picture, and our structural engineer is here. And it really is an incredible operation to imagine there's going to be a hospital that's being built underneath as a shelter, as a structure for all the patients. We received a wonderful, about hour and a half tour from Marla Haruni, who works at the hospital. Her exuberance and her love for the hospital was very evident. The tour began at an entrance of the emergency room. So we mentioned Magen David Adom earlier, one of Barak's many other passions, and many of us support the organization, which provides emergency and ambulance services throughout Israel, or the first responders. But when they stop doing their job, it's when hospitals like Shaare Zedek start their work. And we heard a few anecdotes about the scope and scale of what it takes to deal with emergency in Israel, where, God forbid, whether it's a suicide bombing or the fires that we heard recently, or some other issue. And the Shaare Zedek, being the center of Jerusalem, plays a very important role. We'll continue here. So really, over the course of the tour, a few things struck me, really three things specifically. One is the fact that our Jewish values are in action. And it's not just the fact that we're helping others and everyone's getting medical treatment, but also the Jewish history, the Jewish culture. All that is evident, as we'll see in a second. Secondly is the beauty of the hospital. You'll see the little touches, and here's one down one of the hallways. You don't feel like you're in a hospital. There's elements of a museum or an art gallery. It's really something that's, I think as a patient, I would appreciate. As a visitor, Leah and I really noted, and it was beautiful for us. And third is the idea of innovation. And not just innovation in the sense of technology, of course everything there's state-of-the-art and world-class, but also innovation in terms of the treatment, and we'll talk about that in a moment as well. There's creative responses and approaches to delivering healthcare.
So we go to the next slide, which is the maternity department, which we met tons of babies that were just born. so beautiful to watch, especially for me. It was so touching because I was pregnant at the time. And there's a little statistics that I want to read about the hospital here. It says, the Wilf Women and Infant Center of Charlie's Floor and Shaare Zedek Bikurim City Center campus have already welcomed more than 10,000 babies into the world in the first 6 months of the year, with an expected 21,000 in 2013, making it the most active maternity department in the country and most likely in the entire Western world. So you could just imagine how much work and how much people care about, and people go to this hospital, and it's just amazing. And my mother and I and my sister actually got a chance to walk into one of the delivery rooms and watch a woman struggle to push out her baby. Do you remember that?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
When you say babies, just like you're seeing the babies in there, and that was my highlight of my last trip. How old are these babies?
Like a day old. No, maybe hours.
Hours.
Old,
I was there, and it was 2 p.m. and you see the baby, and let's say it's today, it was August 14th, and it'll say baby born August 14th, 12:30 p.m. The baby was just born, and you almost feel like it's not your place to be there because where are the parents? I'm with all the babies.
And there's 10 of them. They're just all like lined up next to each other, just sitting.
Let me give you a comparison.
Yeah.
Shaare Zedek is a hospital of 1,000 beds, which is the same size as Cedars. Last year, Cedars had its biggest year ever, babies, 6,800. And Shaare Zedek, 21,000.
And population.
We're seeing some of these babies before they even have names. So how do they know whose baby it is? They basically say the baby of Leah or the baby of whoever it is. It's the mother's name. Yeah, wow.
And another thing I also focused on was how caring and kind the nurses were. It was almost like they had the training of the nurses in America. They cared so much. They were so nice, and we really felt like we were at Cedars.
Right. So Veterans and Cedars, that's where we're delivering.
Yeah.
The plan is at least. It doesn't happen tonight. So.
I have to interject something.
Yes.
Something that was really interesting, that the statistics that Leah read, I think about 15% of that is Arab children, that are born there.
Oh yeah.
And for a person that lives in Los Angeles, going there and seeing the way that the nurses, they took care of these Arab pregnant women, or the ones that they just delivered, that should be more, in the news or the PR work, that to show that the Israelis really, they care about their citizens, no matter what they are, whether they're Arabs or.
So and that brings up a really key point. So we walk through this hospital as guests and as visitors. We forget that we are in Israel and the challenges Israel faces. This is a photograph of Dr. David Applebaum. He's an American-born physician who served as the chief of the emergency room at Shaare Zedek. He died in a suicide bombing in 2003 in Jerusalem at Cafe Hillel. There's a beautiful tribute to him. It's a sad but important reminder that Israel is constantly living under threat, and the doctors and nurses and staff of Shaare Zedek are under immense pressure, and it's something that it's an important reminder right at the entrance of the hospital.
Sam, let me just add, Applebaum was in Los Angeles on Monday to convince the Steven Spielberg to get the cast of ER to be honored by us to build a new ER, which at first didn't work, and then after his death it did work. The Tuesday night he spoke, this is 1 year after 9/11, Tuesday night he spoke at NYU Downtown Hospital, which is the hospital closest to 9/11, to the doctors about mass casualty event and all that. He flew home Tuesday night. Wednesday evening he took his daughter out because she was to be married Thursday night. They went to Cafe Hillel and they were killed the night before she was to be married. 10 years ago. I tell you the story for the obvious reason you should know the story of a humanitarian, an Orthodox rabbi, and one of the leading emergency room doctors in the world. This October we are commemorating his 10th Yortzeit in Los Angeles with a symposium on mass casualty event. The head ER that handled Sandy Hook Elementary School, the head of the ER that handled Boston Marathon, the head of the ER that handled 9/11 in New York, and Shaare Zedek's head of ER who handled the major work that Israel did in Haiti and Japan will all be speaking. It's open to the community. His wife will be there, and his son, who's following in his footsteps as emergency room doctor, will be there. So we invite you all to come, and Jennifer will send you a special invitation. You won't have to pay the $180 that's being charged. We'll invite you as Friends of Shaare Zedek for much less. But we hope you come to learn a little bit about this mass casualty event, but also to learn more about one of the most unique individuals in the history of the world.
And the important counterpoint to that is that this hospital is in the heart of Jerusalem, and for those of us who've been there, that we know there's a large non-Jewish Arab and Christian population as well, and we clearly felt that there's no discrimination or disparate treatment towards anyone who's not Jewish. It's actually a beautiful tribute to Dr. Applebaum, but everyone gets wonderful treatment here, and we're really proud of that fact, and we felt it just by walking through the halls.
Yep. To touch a little bit on what Sam said before, the artwork and how they infused Judaism into the hospital, we realized that every floor had a different type of mezuzah, and this was one of the this is a picture of the mezuzah at the labor and delivery, and it was little blocks with like the alphabet, the Hebrew alphabet on it, and it was so beautiful and very creative artwork everywhere throughout. Everything was just so detail oriented, and I wrote a note here that it was even nicer than Cedars. And another thing to touch on what he said, which was the innovation. So they had different types of dealing with the children there who have disorders or any other disease, which was their pet therapy. For example, if a child there had high blood sugar, they would give the child a hamster who also has high blood sugar, and have the child take care of that hamster and make sure that he lives a long life by what he eats, what he does, how he exercises, just so he can learn responsibility and how he needs to take care of himself by taking care of his hamster, which I thought was so beautiful. And it not only does it teach them to be responsible, but it also teaches them to be kind to other humans, to other animals, and I think it's very innovative.
And building off of the story of the children, the hospital has a large and well-renowned children's hospital throughout the halls. You can see some of the artwork that the children have created, infused with Jewish culture and Jewish history, and it's really powerful and beautiful to see. And we're really fortunate to walk the halls and experience it as a visitor. Another point that it's important to us is that neither Leah nor I is a doctor, and for many of us, going to hospitals usually means either we need medical treatment or someone that we care about does. Maybe with the exception of a pregnancy, usually it's something that's a sad occasion. It's really eye-opening to go to a hospital and just be an observer, just a guest, and a visitor. You really get to see the miracles that happen on a daily basis. You realize how important a hospital is to the life of a city, the life of a society. It's really, for me, I don't think I really appreciated that until you walk around without thinking about why you're there and just watching and learning and asking questions, and it was really powerful.
Can you go back one picture?
Yes.
This.
Oh, no, I can't. We'll let it keep going.
This one picture that I wanted to go back to was an artwork that they asked the children to do. What would make them happy? And if you see, some of them, wrote, and there's a hamster that they took care of. Some of them wrote to see myself healthy again, to go back home, and one of them up there was to see Gilad Shalit free. If you saw.
You'll see in just a second.
Yeah. Like, this is what the children there care about. They care about freeing Gilad Shalit. And this is the faces of the children. They asked them to describe themselves, and you see some look up there.
Yeah.
Some of them wrote it to go outside, to go to school, or that's probably getting a new heart. And that one was to free Gilad Shalit. I thought it was beautiful. Oh, another thing that the hospital also does is clown therapy to lift the children's spirit, and we were fortunate enough to run into a clown right there, and the clowns are actually very talented, and they're very silly, and they have such a talent to making everything uplifting, with their large scissors or with their large glasses or whatever. It's a very nice way to break the ice for the kids to talk amongst one another, and to the clown and to their doctors. So it was a very nice way to treat the children.
And as a final point, we'll see the last few images. There are these beautiful photos and artifacts at the entrance of the hospital as you walk in and walk out. It really does feel like a museum at times. You can see the history of the hospital, the history of Old Jerusalem. The name Shaare Zedek means gates of justice, gates of righteousness, and you really do feel like you're walking into a really special place. And the history of the hospital, it opened in 1902 originally in its first site. Incredible. It served the population for now over 100 years. People like Yitzhak Rabin was born there. He was born there in 1922. The hospital really was and is a huge part of the history and founding of the state of Israel, the success of Israel today, and for the future. It's really vital part of the country. And when you see some of these photos, you see some of these small artifacts. It just reminds you. Yeah, it reminds you that Israel was founded, just like the founding of this hospital, by men and women who decided to strike out and build and settle and develop and really grow something from the ground up that would benefit others and benefit society. And we left the hospital with this incredible sense of empowerment, that we were part of a beautiful. This picture is really powerful for me. That we're part of a long history and a long chain of men and women who've done incredible things. And we were very fortunate to walk through these halls for just a few hours during our trip to Israel. We encourage all of you during your next trip to Israel to talk to Paul or Jennifer about making a tour of the hospital, a part of your trip. We promise that you'll not regret it. It'll be the best part of your trip, and it was powerful. It was powerful for us, and we just had an incredible time. So I hope you learned a little bit about the hospital, and I hope you all will go visit soon. Thank you.